Good morning. It is Thursday, July the 24th. It's about 10:20 a.m. This is meteorologist Shea Gibson bringing you a first forecast for the Helly Hansen Sailing World Regatta Series at Marblehead starting tomorrow. So I know that there's some practice runs going on out there today, along with a couple of first warnings. So I'll talk a little bit about today, and then we'll go into primarily for tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. So be sure to check in live here 8:30 each morning to find out the latest and greatest, right? So we're going to be going into more detail each day. So be sure to attend. This is more of a coverage for all 3 days, which things can change after you get to 48 to 72 hours. So with that said, quick shameless plug for us at SailFlow. If you haven't tried the app, it's free to download and give a try. There are some really good ProNet stations in the area that you can take a look at with Pro Forecast at 8 a.m. Make sure you scan the QR code here at the bottom right to be able to get the daily weather. Not only does it give you the notifications live as we go live, but you can also hop in and ask questions as we are in real time. That said, here are the, let me go back to the station here. So I'm going to be using Children's Island, which I usually do for this. Nahant Bay also has a sensor to the south, so it's another good point of reference. And there are a few tempest weather stations in the area, but I wanted to kind of zero in on this one weather station, which has really good placement for these directions of winds from the southwest and for the north switch up on Saturday. So just be mindful. That's going to be the ProNet station I'm going to be using for the spot forecast, along with the model suite runs on that. With that said, the race areas consist of bowditch to the north. We have brimbles, north, south, tinkers, and archers. Be mindful in the southwest flow, folks, over where the archers race ring is, and possibly even some of the tinkers and brimbles. So brimbles and archers likely more impacted by some of that land shadowing effect from southwest flow. Just be aware of it where you are on the course as we talk about the winds each day. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and go over to visible satellite. Clear day today. I don't see a whole lot of clouds, maybe a few stratus types or some upper cirrus building in the afternoon, but just pretty much clear for most of the day. If we look at the 500 millibar analysis, we have about 15 to 20 knots aloft at about 290 degrees. So that's due west northwest. That is actually going to help with the sea breeze circulation. So I'm going to bring the draw tool over and just kind of give you a little bit of a rundown on how the sea breeze works in this area and all along the eastern coast for that matter. When you have southwest flow like we do across the area, it's going to be mixing in at the surface, right? And then as it does, this relationship at the land-sea interface, the winds go up, there's a carrot, basically the return flow aloft coming in from the west-northwest, which basically filters back into the coast. This is what causes the sea breeze circulation for that crossing. So it's more of kind of a corkscrew breeze, if you will, with this direction. It is clockwise from the high pressure as far as the direction of the circulation itself, but the low pressure that develops along the coastline helps accentuate that. There is a little bit of a trough just east of the Appalachians, even though you can't see it very much on visible satellite. It is there. It is a very subtle feature, and that also helps to accentuate some of those sea breezes in the area. So with that said, go ahead and go to the surface map, kind of give you the bigger picture from a mesoscale. Going from synoptic to mesoscale, we have a high pressure ridge built all the way down to the southeast region with the ridge axis extending down to the southern Appalachian Mountains, down to the northern Gulf states. Up and around that, we talked about this on Monday, is where the winds come up from the southwest or the southwest. And we do have a pretty healthy, robust feature going on for today, and it should be for tomorrow as well. So I'll go ahead and just pop up the map for sail flow. We're about 14 knots now. Children's Island, we were at 17 knots earlier. It's bouncing a little bit up and down between 3 and 4 knots. So it's actually just up to 15, gusting 18. I do suspect that this is going to continue to be the case through much of the day. I'm calling for 13 to 17 knots along the south-south regime, somewhere between 204 and about 225 degrees. And then this will actually be the case for tomorrow as well, with a little bit more of a southwesterly regime coming in, closer to 225, maybe to 240. So that's going to be the case today. I'm calling for 13 to 17. It may dip a little bit. So the wharf, the HRRR, kind of go down a little bit, and that's due to that ambient heat over the area, not allowing it to fully mix over those cooler waters, right? So I did talk about potential for fogging for today and tomorrow, and it looks like there's enough of the boundary layer mixing that's occurring. I did get with the Weather Service Boston in their chat line and just talked with them briefly about it, and we both believe that the the coupling factor is going to be great. It'll be a decent mixing factor from the boundary layer, and then we won't have to deal with any fog. If anything, maybe some very shallow marine layering on the surface. So if you see any kind of a glowing hue or white hue across the surface tomorrow during the race, and that means you're seeing a very subtle marine layer. It's not a thick fog bank or anything, but it may take away a couple of knots from the top wind speeds during the peak heating hours of the day. So between 11 and I'd say about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And then we see the miles pick back up after 2, 3 o'clock. And that's going to be the case again for tomorrow. So if we look at Friday's forecast, starts out, you have some overnight nocturnal jetting getting up here in the upper teens, maybe even some low 20s. And that's classic of where when you see frontal activity entering from the northwest, we see that nocturnal jetting phase, and then coming down as we get into the sunrise, coming back up in the afternoon again. I'm going to call for tomorrow. I'm going to call for 11 to 15 knots, possibly 13 to 17 if we get that mixing better ahead of that front. So along the prefrontal zone is what we're going to be watching. Also from some storm activity, if you look at the HRRR here, zinging up pretty high, the wharf going low. Either way, these two mean that around 3 o'clock or so, they're both reading into some storm activity that could be rolling into the air, some isolated cells moving in. So that's what it's reading. As we get into Saturday, it looks like we have a shift of winds over from the north and northeast. Could lean all the way over to the east, southeast, or southeast by late afternoon, but I think we're going to see a veering wind through tomorrow as we go from about 0 degrees at start over towards 20 degrees and possibly even over 90 by 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to handle this day to day as well and talk about the speeds and what the potential is. But just know that there's going to be a veering wind tomorrow. What's good is it's coming in off the water, which is good. So that means that the winds will settle better than coming from land, from a westerly regime or even northwesterly regime. And then Sunday, we have that return southerly flow as another cold front that starts to approach from the northwest. So that's another building south flow for Sunday. So it looks like we're in a pretty decent wind window overall for the event. I did want to talk about the air temperatures, ambient air temperatures today up around 89 over Boston, 93 for tomorrow. But over the water with mid 60s, you're talking maybe 75, 80 degrees over the water where you are for sailing. If we look at predict wind, I'm going to be looking at the Yukumo with not the 50, but I'm probably going to be looking at a lower, the 50 kilometer. I'll go down to the 15 kilometer, and we'll take this day to day for the area. But it's pretty much in agreement with this southwest flow for today and tomorrow. And I'll be taking this one forward. If we go into tomorrow and then into Saturday, we see that northerly wind easing out and building down from the northeast. And I know Billy had mentioned using this model, so I'm going to check it out for this race and see if it verifies for the area. Sometimes the HRRR and the Wharf 2 do pretty well, but overall not bad. If we look at the rain, here's the rain forecast for tomorrow. Just some concerns around mid to late afternoon as we go out. So this is the 12Z run, which goes out to 48 hours. It hasn't quite filled in yet, but at least it gives us the snapshot for tomorrow. So we're looking at about 1, 2 o'clock. We start to see some isolated showers trying to move down over Connecticut, Vermont. And then now we see some of those isolated showers moving over the coast around 3, maybe 4 o'clock. So I'm pinning about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon as potential for when these isolated storm cells start to move over. And then we get a larger swath of those that are going to be coming through a little bit later in the afternoon around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Some could be severe with some very strong winds. So I'll be talking about that in a little more detail tomorrow, but just make sure that you're having a plan for your late afternoon to be off the water at some point ahead of these storms. And then after that, we look pretty good for the rest of the for the race. Looking at the NAM 12, looks like that's the biggest threat is tomorrow night. Then things clear out pretty well. And then we get into Sunday, maybe some late afternoons, showers and storms trying to sneak in, but not before we can get the races off and going. So that'll be the forecast for at least tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. And hopefully we can avoid those storms for tomorrow. And it looks like the fog will not be an issue. I'll be checking in with the Weather Service Boston again. But otherwise, we'll see you all tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. and Saturday and Sunday as well. Be sure to tune in. Thank you. See you soon.